Today on the Kite Bag Tour, all my scrolling the internet pays off. What's up, everybody? I am Jesse. We are in my kitchen. Welcome back to Skyrider Limited. It's Kite Bag Tour, and it's not the Kite Bag Tour I planned to make for all of you. Couple of kites still on order that I sort of expected to be here by now, but stuff and things, and not a big deal. And a few other things that I've been saving for Kite Bag Tour. I was going to do a sort of vintage finds and new kites Kite Bag Tour, but that one's going to have to wait because last week, so let's see here. Today is April 1st as I'm filming this. So last week, someone shared a Craigslist post on one of the Facebook groups, and I immediately dove on it because it was only a couple hours from me. And the gentleman was selling a number of vintage kites for kind of an unbelievable price. And I immediately emailed him and was like, "Hey, man, you really want just that for these?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Cool. I can be there Sunday. I will be there Sunday if that's cool with you, cash in hand." And he was like, "Cool. I'll see you Sunday." So I drove from Massachusetts to Connecticut, like 3-ish hours down to almost New York. Um, and I bought a bunch of kites. There was a bunch of stuff in this lot. Most of it is pretty cool. It's so recently after me getting Diesel. Come here. Hey, silly dog. I've got help today because we're in the kitchen. The cat and the dog are here. Um, I I haven't had time to like even start restoring stuff that needed it, but most of it is in such good shape it's not going to need any or needs minimal restoration. One of the kites is missing a couple of sticks and a couple of fittings have crumbled, but for the most part, I think another one had like a crushed top sprinter. But for the most part, they're ready to fly pretty much. And there's some one or two that I've kind of always wanted, and I'm really excited to have collected in this lot. And then there's some stuff that so this guy, he had been given the kites by a friend, and he wasn't really into kites, so he didn't really know what he had. He just basically read bag tags. A couple of the bags are not the original bags for the kites, and what was hiding inside the bags was infinitely cooler than what the bag tags ever could have been. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was pretty stoked to see some Action Kites tags, but what is hiding in the Action Kites bag in this collection is way cooler to me than just if it had just been a moon dart. Not that moon darts aren't cool. No, nothing against the Action Kites guys. Just what was hiding in that bag was really really cool. So let's dive right in because there's a bunch of these, and I really am very excited to share. Frankly, some lost history. Some of these are at least one of them is particularly special, at least according to its maker. I was pretty lucky in that I know a couple of the people that made some of these and was able to reach out and get a little bit of extra history in the couple of days since I collected them. So I'm gonna go put a kite together and put it right there in the spot we like to look at kites, and I will be right back. Well, here we are. You can probably see by the tag behind me, it is a top of the line sport kite. And if you're wondering why it looks so small, that's because this is not a North Shore Radical. This is a North Shore Extreme. This is the kite that sent me running. Everything else was listed by brand. Thanks to Top of the Line for putting their models on their bag tags. This one was named right out in the Craigslist ad. I've been doing a little bit of research trying to, and I think North Shore Extremes are pretty rare. It seems like they're pretty rare. Certainly don't see them as often as you see North Shore Radicals. It's the baby version. This one's I think they were framed in Beeman. Wonderful, double rolled seams, all in ripstop. And sort of the idea, as I understand it, was high wind, small kite, and then there was I think the Kona was a vented version of the Extreme, I think. Um, so little baby kite, more tricky than its bigger brother, the North Shore Radical. Um, this one basically, other than needing some bungees, is perfect. It's a little dirty; it'll need a bath, but yeah, I just like kind of slid the knots and everything to get the sail to sort of look tensioned because the bungees loose. But other than that, all the fittings survived pretty well. Everything seems to be in pretty good shape. So, I mean, it's pretty pristine, but it's going to be a flyer for sure, which is pretty exciting. And like I said, this was the one that sent me running for sure. It's in the great, black rainbow scheme. Um, and yeah, I'm super excited to have it. We own a couple of Hawaiians, but that was about it for top of the line. I think my dad had a spinoff at one point, but don't know what happened to it somewhere along the way. So to get some top of the line stuff back in the collection is really, really exciting. And they're just really nicely made kites and definitely part of the soundtrack of late 80s and early 90s sport kites. Because they're a no leech line kite, they have this, and because they're nylon sails, just this wonderful rumble through the sky. Product of the time, the fishing swivels and stuff. But yeah, super excited about this one. So let me go get the next treasure in the collection, and we'll just kind of keep this rolling along. So, number 2 and 3 of this kind of extraordinary find, we have from the Chicago Kite Company the bees. I'm actually unclear on this. Are they fire bees or bees? Somebody out on the internet, let me know. I think they're just bees. I think it's the Chicago Fire Kite Company bee. Um, The white one is in a little better shape than the black, but again, both of them in remarkably good shape. They could use a bath. They've definitely seen a little bit of action. This one, I'm probably gonna have to track down an irreplaceable spreader. It looks like at some point one of the lower spreaders got broken on this one, and somebody replaced it with good quality carbon, but not its original Beeman. It's Beeman Pro 14, I think. We got here. Pro Competition 14. Interesting note about these guys. These were designed by Eric Wolf and company at Chicago Fire, but these sails were sewn by Flexifoil. So they were being produced at the same time as things like the Strangers and stuff like that. Big seatbelt webbing nose, ripstop nylon sails. Um, I have never flown a bee. I'm actually really looking forward to this. I'm trying to convince my dad we need to take these out and fly pairs with them. Since, not just a pair of matching kites, but vintage kites could be kind of fun. Love this one in the black and the neons, very classic, very, very 90s. The green and white, not my color palette of choice, but it's very Chicago Fire with the white wings. It feels very much right for the kite, for sure. Again, really excited. These guys are big too. Like you can see, they don't fit in front of the cabinets altogether. They're hanging out to one side a little in space. But I wanted to make sure we got both of them in the picture for you. Yeah, super stoked about these guys for sure. I knew there was something Chicago Fire. Um, I was not really sure what I was hoping for. Maybe an Opus 8 or a Magnum. But boy, I was pretty excited when the bees came out of the bag. Um, and just to have great like time capsule colorways and they're again, I have done no restoration, no cleaning yet. They're pretty much all here. Even the bungees on these are pretty good right now. That one, like I said, I will have to figure out something with this spreader just because it's a little, like, just a shade too big for the center T. And I can see that presenting some problems, especially if my dad and I want to try some pairs with them. But Chicago Fire Kite Company, bees. Super cool. So stoked. What do you think? Next kite? Next kite. Well, Another big one here, and in these phenomenal purples and pinks of, again, the late 80s and early 90s. What we have here is a Pro Wasp, kind of the king of the Wasp series of kites from Windwalker Kites. So, fun kite story here. Show of hands, like I can see you out there in YouTube land. Show of hands, who remembers Gala kites? Either maybe as your first kite, the plastic single line kites that were at every convenience store, gas station, and like pharmacy back in the 90s, or as the plastic kite you remember seeing always stuck in a tree at some park you frequent, or perhaps as the plastic menace with cotton string that cut people out of the sky because the plastic the plastic kites came with cotton string, which actually abrades and cuts spectra. Fun facts, if you didn't know already. Well, Windwalker Kites, as I learned during my research for this, was a division of Gala Kites, and Gala, once upon a time, made real, serious sport kites. And this is one of them. This is probably the most serious one they made. This one has definitely seen some action and some beach action. It's definitely a little sandy. Gonna need some new bungees, and unfortunately the standoffs have run away. But that is about the only thing missing. Everything else looks to be in pretty good shape, so it should not be too very hard to get it all put back together. Some really interesting stuff with this kite in general in the details. This bridle leg here. So it's a 4-point bridle with that mid-leading edge leg. It appears that the mid-haul and the out-haul are active. They're sort of loose lark's headed around the swivel and appear to have had the ability to sort of slide and self-equalize, which is kind of unique and a new one by me. It's an interesting design with its extra sort of tunnel spines here that the standoff would have pushed out on. It was sort of like a hybrid between a dart shape and Hawaiian shape, kind of all at once. I'm looking forward to playing with it and maybe getting it back in the air. Again, most of the stops even are still pretty well glued. So mostly a bath and some new standoffs, and this one should be right as rain. Again, super cool too, like the craftsmanship on some of these early kites, even this one that was technically a mass production piece. Everything's, double rolled stitching and just beautiful tight, zigzags here, straight stitch on the double rolls, the seatbelt webbing noses on everything. Boy, the 90s stuff was built to last, which is just really cool. It's why so much of it, unfortunately, I think a lot of it, like, people pass on and their family doesn't know what it is or what it's worth, and it just gets thrown out when a house gets cleaned out. So we have lost a lot of history, but, like, a lot of it survives. And I mean, here's a, great testament to why. Like, the company that was making plastic Delta kites for your local gas station, also making really nice sport kites built to last in the early 90s. The Pro Wasp. Super excited for this one too. I don't know if you can tell. A lot of these are stuff I didn't really know a ton of history, so I've been digging through old Sport Kite Quarterly or Stunt Kite Quarterly. I've been digging through old magazines, Kite Lines and stuff like that. Shout out to John Baresi and Kite Life for archiving a bunch of that stuff and having it available on his site. I've been, trying to track down as much history as I could since I picked these up 2 days ago. So you're kind of learning a lot of this as I'm learning it too, which is really, really cool. Because I think I've made a reputation for myself as having a lot of kite knowledge. So this is one of the first ones where I had to do some research. This wasn't just stuff rolling around in the back of my brain. And that's exciting for me because getting to learn something new should always be exciting, right? Learn something new every day if you can. At any rate, on to the next one. We have entered the sort of mass market and certainly the standoff-free portion of tonight's program. In my hand here and hanging behind me are the pair of Sky Jammers. Little, what's that? About 5-foot wingspan Delta stunt kite, early Delta stunt kite. These guys are Spectra Star. Again, as you expect, needs some bungee repairs and stuff, but in remarkable shape. All fiberglass frame. Center tees just slide through the big stick to the little mark on it. But cool little kites, probably fun to zoom around. I'm surprised that nobody stacked them. They seem like they'd be a perfect, late 80s, early 90s stacker. And then behind me, let me put this one aside. Behind me, we have the one that's eluding me in the collection. So this big guy is framed in all fiberglass and appears to be from Go Fly a Kite that used to be a company out of Connecticut. It was made in Korea. It's an all ripstop sail. Again, really nicely done, all double rolled seams. But I cannot, for the life of me, find a model name. So if you're out there in the comments section and you know what it is, by all means, please put the name in the comments for me. I would love to know just what I've got here. I absolutely love the black and magenta. It's definitely in my color palette with all my love for Reuben. I also, the irony of the shirt I chose for this, and everything is ripstop nylon, not a single stitch of Icarus to be seen. But these ones, I mean, again, they're early, they're standoff free, so they're not going to do a lot, but they'll be fun to just sort of experience for sure. Let me go get the next one. We're down to 2 left, and we'll keep this train rolling. So we started with the kite that sent me running. We have reached the 2 kites that I consider the greatest finds in the collection, because they are from the earliest days of really truly boutique kite making, sport kite making. What I am standing in front of was a kite that attempted to stump me until I reached out to some friends, and is in remarkably good shape. It needs some fittings and love from that regard, but the sail is in really pretty good shape. There's a small nick in the leading edge there, but other than that, it's pretty close to perfect. This is a Skyburner 2. John Trenopole, Skyburner Kites. John and Marianne are still doing Skyburner. They're now also Sky Shark, Kites and Fun Things up in Michigan. But back then, as far as I know, I think they were just Skyburner Kites. And what's really cool is this is missing, the fittings have largely crumbled off it, and it's missing, it would have had, this is a batten setup that was out here. And the battens have gone AWOL over time. But I called Marianne today, and she is digging up the framing sheet for me. And I will be able to restore this thing right back to as close to original as we can get. Yeah, the standoffs have once been lost. That's a replacement on that side. I'm pretty sure they would have been glass originally like this one, but the glass is splitting on this side. So this one's going to take a bit of restoration before it sees the air. But I am really looking forward to putting it back in the air. Like, I will probably put a little patch tape on this just to protect that leading edge from splitting any further. But there is no reason this kite can't be in the air again. And that's super cool, because this was bleeding edge in 1993 or 4. I'm pretty sure the first ads that mention it for Skyburner are in 94. So, about 2 years after I started competing, and before my dad and I got our first sort of dual line sponsorship with Buena Vista, this would have been seen in masters class competition, and experience in intermediate. This was a kite people were competing with while I was competing, and in the early days of it. And handmade sail, beautifully stitched, double rolled seams, beautiful, clean cut reinforcements that
very period seatbelt nose that just made some really bomb-proof kites. In that regard, it's really cool. I'm really, really excited about this one. And when I tell you that this one is only marginally outmatched by how excited I am, slightly more than marginally, but marginally outmatched by how excited I am for the last one, wait till you see what I've got next. And we reach tonight's finale, kite-wise. This one threw me for a little bit of a loop right at first, I admit it. I knew I had seen the graphic before, but I couldn't place it. I knew the stitching looked familiar, but I couldn't dredge up the memory. And I was staring at it, and finally I flipped it over. And on the back of that wing, this kite says, number 69 to 1993, Ken McNeill. What we are looking at here is a wind dancer, Donna, from Ken McNeill when he was producing kites as Aerie Kiteworks. So a lot of people just refer to these as the Belladonnas. I actually am lucky enough to know, as with a number of the other kites in this video, I'm lucky enough to know Ken a little bit, and so I reached out to Ken and got some clarification. There were about 100 Belladonnas made in the Wind Dancer. He then used the graphic again for 20 or 30 K2s. And so there's a number of Belladonnas out there. That's kind of important because I sent Ken a picture of this kite, and he reckons in the Wind Dancer, he only made 2 blue ones. And one of them was his personal competition kite. Well, I kind of doubt that this is Ken's personal kite. That would make it the other one. It was 1993, and I would forgive Ken if his memory's a bit off on that, but he was that was his recollection, so I'm gonna go with it for now, and boy, does that make this one kind of special if it is the only other blue one. Ken's work is, I mean, very few people applique on sport kites quite like Ken. Peter Bencourt did some pretty remarkable applique with the Bad Boys and some of those kites. There were some pretty impressive appliques on top of the line stuff. And of course, Randy Tom appliqued hyper kites all the time. But Ken is arguably one of the masters. The stitching and all this cut applique, I mean, her eyebrow is a single stitch line piece of pinstriped nylon. It's just unbelievable. All of this is, cleanly back cut. Then this beautiful rolled double stitch on the trailing edge, the wide zigzag stitch. I can speak tonight, I swear. I've been doing this too long, you can tell. Zigzags on the leading edge and panel joints. God, I mean, Ken can build a kite, that is for sure. And yeah, I'm so excited. And it looks like it'll be a little fun. I bet it does a great 540 and a pretty flat axle. And I promised Ken I would fly it. As gorgeous as it is, he was like, well, don't just make it a wall hanger. You got to fly it. And I was, of course, happy to oblige. So that will be coming. It needs some tensioning and maybe a little bit of a bath like they all do. But whatever this particular tubing Ken used has stayed remarkably pliable. This spreader stop needs to be glued, but that's all that I have to do is glue some stops and tension the spine. I think this thing is a remarkable survivor considering it's now 32 years old. super cool. I was shocked because it was in an unmarked black bag. It could have been anything. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know from the pictures on Craigslist because again, the ad was just picture of a pile of kite bags. So I took a gamble that that North Shore Extreme bag was actually a North Shore Extreme, and that there would be something else worth my trip in the rest of the bags. And I mean, I think I came away beyond any hope or expectation. I'm just so excited and so happy to like add these to the collection. I figured there'd be some stuff that'd be interesting, but I'd be, back on Facebook flipping stuff that I didn't want to keep. And I got to be honest, there's almost nothing here that I don't at least want to fly once or twice before passing it on, and probably will keep. I was thinking I'd maybe pass on one of the bees, but trying to convince my dad we need to go play pairs. Why not? There's a pair of kites there. Um, Thank you all so much for watching, liking, subscribing, sharing. It's hard to believe this has been going into year 3 now, right? We had our 2 year back in January, and there are over 900 of you following along with this. And as always, thank you to all of you for watching, and we will see you out there, Skyrider.